Welcome to Time Ball Games. I'm ELD, here to ask you for help in growing the channel. When we reach 2,500 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a custom leather playmat to one lucky subscriber. So be sure to like and subscribe. We are jumping right in here with Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Ted putting out a Thorn of Amethyst, however, a Genesis? Is that a Genesis? With a Magus of the Moon. I don't even understand what I am witnessing here. I believe we've got a 4/4 Genesis beating down alongside Magus of the Moon. That is really what that card looks like to me. Let me know if I'm seeing it wrong. Simian Spirit Guide being thrown in the way here for Ted, but I mean really of no consequences. It can just block a Magus, and then that does the final damage. So game one, super fast. I'd love to know what happened at the beginning of that match. I'm guessing some Elvish Spirit Guides powered out the 4/4 Genesis, which proved to be too large and too quick for Ted's Eldrazi deck. Not typically the case. Eldrazi can usually handle opposing creatures quite well, as they have equipment and also very large bodies for the mana costs, especially when you take into account the efficiency of the lands in Eldrazi. You've got Eldrazi Temple, Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Eye of Ugin, all sorts of lands that effectively add 2 or more mana once you start to delve into Cloudpost. I don't know if he's actually going to have access to those. I don't believe that the decks running Simian Spirit Guide historically have also run Cloudpost and Glimmerpost. You can also run Vesuva and Thespian Stage along with those lands, making Cloudpost just an incredibly good card. Potentially tapping for 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. Grim Monolith also sees play in those larger ramp decks. I think we're going to see out of Ted here a little bit lower to the ground of Eldrazi. And Red-Green Prison just... Genesis. I mean, I guess you're discarding it to Seasoned Pyromancer is how that usually plays out. And then potentially recurring very difficult to deal with cards. Or it's maybe not difficult to deal with, but big problems once they arrive. Like Magus of the Moon isn't exactly a card I'd call difficult to deal with. He's just a 2/2 body. But, I mean, when he actually arrives, his effect is absolutely massive. So even though there are tons of cards that get rid of him, Lightning Bolt, really any red removal. We've got a turn 1 Eldrazi Mimic, which can be part of some of Eldrazi's faster draws. This could be swinging for 4 or 5 damage on the second turn. Worst case scenario would be a Reality Smasher, making it a 5/5, and then also swinging with haste, potentially taking off 10 damage on this second turn. City of Traders, along with Simian Spirit Guide, putting out a Blood Moon, and that's going to slow down a lot of Ted's more aggressive draws. Land Grant is revealing a Reclamation Sage, along with a Bone Crusher Giant, actually 2 Bone Crusher Giants. So this Eldrazi Mimic may not be around for long, as Bone Crusher Giant can easily clear him. Just 2 mana now for Ted. This Blood Moon really hurting this deck that is actually colorless. It's not that it's hurting the color requirement. That's typically where Blood Moon and Magus of the Moon are the most damaging, is shutting off colored mana, but that's not the case here. This is just the quantity of mana. Normally Ted would have access to 6 mana here, and instead he is at 3 mana and swinging for just 1 damage with this Walking Ballista. He does need another mana before he can start growing the Ballista, which will be useful, as this game is a little bit of a mess. But I think, actually, no, Kiefer's got another Stomp. He may have to use it now. No, he's going to Once Upon a Time. And if Ted has a Guide in hand, it was an interesting little game of chicken. I think Kiefer has a Spirit Guide. But if Ted had a Guide, he could have potentially put a counter end of turn and then untap, put a counter. So if that land drop wasn't made, that Walking Ballista could have gotten out of hand. However, that Spirit Guide in Kiefer's hand does actually keep it honest. And now we've got a 4/4 Thought-Knot Seer, which is pretty big. Bone Crusher coming in. The Waste, an incredibly important card here for Ted, as it allows for colorless mana. The red mana from all of those mountains, not actually useful for these Eldrazi. Matter Reshaper and Thought-Knot Seer both require a colorless mana. A Reclamation Sage takes out a Walking Ballista, however, it should have taken out the Reclamation Sage. I don't know what he pinged. Very interesting. It might have been just a misunderstanding of the stack. Reclamation Sage is an enter the battlefield trigger, so you absolutely would be able to use the Walking Ballista on it. Thought-Knot Seer dies to Stomp, and Ted should be drawing a card on its leaves the battlefield. I didn't actually catch if he did. Let me know if he missed the card draw in the comments. Matter Reshaper can trade up with this Bone Crusher Giant. Ted has just a ton of mana here. And is that an Ugin? Oh, Ugin's fine. Ugin's totally fine here. It'll clear, like, all the things. Right? It's going to get rid of all of the 3 casting costs red permanents. If that does what I think it does. I feel like that's like the perfect card. Ted's body language would not seem to indicate a appropriate level of excitement about this Ugin. Destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Okay, it's not all of the same mana cost. I got him crossed with the other Ugin. So he's just going to make a 2/2. Either way, I do think this Planeswalker is very good here. Bone Crusher can trade in with this Matter Reshaper, which is not going to feel very good. Seasoned Pyromancer will be making a comeback from the graveyard, but the entire board is cleared. An Endless One. Not put in off of the Matter Reshaper. Much better to just go ahead and cast this guy for an 8/8. Reality Smasher and an Endless One at 3. And now Ugin can get rid of this Bone Crusher Giant or make another 2/2. I kind of like holding the Endless One. Getting a much larger threat next turn. Let me know how you'd play that. Maybe I'm just being a Timmy, but I feel like a 8/8 is a major problem for a deck like Prison. Tarmogoyf. And that is exactly why. I mean, this Goyf could potentially get pretty big. Seasoned Pyromancer, drawing 2 cards. Kiefer playing a land from hand. Two damage. Getting that card back. Umezawa's Jite is a big problem here. Oh, and I would much rather see Ted here with an absolute giant endless one. Jit tossed onto the Seasoned Pyromancer. That kills a Matter Reshaper, who gets a Wasteland. And now a Ulamog shows up and gets rid of the 2 Blood Moons. And Kiefer not even interested in playing without Blood Moon on the table. So we are on to the next game. We are off to game 3 here. A land grant revealing a whole bunch of acceleration here for Kiefer. Ancient Tomb. And he is opting not to go with a turn 1 Blood Moon. Instead, passing the turn. He could have used a couple of Spirit Guides to power out a turn 1 Blood Moon. Eye of Ugin into Eldrazi Mimic, and an Endless one at 2, passing the turn. And now the Blood Moon comes down. However, Ted has established a little bit of a clock here. Let me know in the comments how you would have played that. I feel like if you're playing a Blood Moon deck, you want to jam that Blood Moon on the very first turn. Ted actually has a Waste, and now a Ratchet Bomb. He swings, and this Ratchet Bomb going to be able to tick up and cause some problems for Kiefer. Genesis, a 4 power and toughness. Can Ted find a way around this giant body? Right now it's just going to be a standstill. Umezawa's Jite is an answer to him. And a Chalice at 1. Or Chalice at 0. Yeah, if he pays 2 for the Jit. And we got a Chalice at 0. We'll stop Chrome Mox. I'm not actually sure what you'd want to put that out against Prison. Probably don't even want that in your deck post board. Genesis turns sideways. And now a Seasoned Pyromancer. Ratchet Bomb ticks up. Genesis not really known for bringing the violence on the battlefield. That 4/4 body is coming in handy right now in terms of stopping the Eldrazi onslaught. Seasoned Pyromancer swings. Ted does have plenty of life. Ratchet Bomb ticks up. And we're going to see Blood Moon and Seasoned Pyromancer going to the bin shortly. And Ted gets an untap step. But oddly, he really doesn't have much mana that's being hurt by this Blood Moon. I mean, he just doesn't have the lands in hand or on the battlefield. This may be one of those 2 landers that you keep that you just never draw another land. Endless one gets a couple of counters on it and takes out the Genesis. Genesis is going to be able to send stuff back to hand now that it's in the graveyard. As soon as Kiefer has green mana. Right now this Blood Moon might not actually be a thing to get rid of. Another Chalice at 1. And this match is going to be very instructive for Ted, I'm sure. And this was quite a while ago, pretty early on, I think, in Ted's tournament playing. I'm sure it would be obvious to him now. to not have Chalice in post board, but we're seeing some dead cards here without much use. Not too much you can do about it. Blood Moon clears the Pyromancer and... I'm sorry, Ratchet Bomb clears the Blood Moon and the Pyromancer. And now a Tarmogoyf comes down. And Ted's still just stuck on... Well, now it's actually not that bad because the Temple is going to... The Eye of Ugin is going to allow for the cost reduction. That actually gets out an Endless One and a Mimic. And this could actually turn really bad next turn with like a Reality Smasher. Kiefer does need to tread carefully. He could get like one hit KO'd if he turns all his guys sideways. A Reality Smasher could just absolutely clean house. Once Upon a Time off of Ancient Tomb. And I think actually Reality Smasher would kill him now. Yeah, it would kill him now even if he only has one blocker. Very interesting. So if he turns Tarmogoyf sideways and Ted drops a Reality Smasher on his turn, this thing's over. There's another Goyf. Reality Smasher turns into another... Matter Reshaper turns into another one. And now Goyf. Can't equip Jit as Eye of Ugin no longer taps for mana. Just agonizing as Ted has been stuck on these two lands. He's got a Simian Spirit Guide in hand, so he can get a single equip out of this, it would appear. Simian Spirit Guide equips the Matter Reshaper, and he may just have to pass. Goyf just outside of range now as it's a 5/6. They both turn sideways. Get some counters. And a Thought-Knot Seer goes to hand. Thinks about going down to 10. You really have to consider Reality Smasher. Just the 5/5 haste is such a disaster when it comes together. Making those Mimics larger, 5 extra damage. I mean, it's essentially an extra 11 damage out of nowhere. Now, Genesis again in this bizarre game playing the role of blocker, just goaltending. Umezawa's Jite gets picked up by an Eldrazi Mimic, and he's going to have to block. I think both of them are going to have to block. Once Upon a Time looks, if it finds a Bonecrusher Giant, this could be a wrap. Magus of the Moon. He does grab a Magus. Seasoned Pyromancer discards getting rid of that Magus. And a couple of Goyfs turn sideways. Blocking must be done here by at least one of these. Getting a couple of counters on the Jit. Now down to 3 life. And there's the hand. Oh, that was so many turns to only have 2 lands out. That is absolutely agonizing for Ted. And Kiefer taking that one down with Prison, which, you know, that level of agony is probably what you're going for if you're sleeving up Blood Moon and Chalice of the Void, so sometimes it works out for you. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.